I'm Ariana Grande.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Erivo.
And you're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Visit bpn.fm to discover more.
There's a cat over here. There's a cat over there. And the wrong one died. And the wrong one died.
Welcome to The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown of the catastrophe. I'm your host, Mike Abrams, and today we have another amazing guest. Not long ago, episode 229, I had Tim Scott on, who directed the 2025 Music Theater Heritage production of Cats in Kansas City. And I have been fascinated by this still, and I was very lucky to now see a few clips because I heard from some cast members, and I'm thrilled to have the Jellicle narrator himself, Bryce Bayer, who played Munkustrap this past August. So welcome, Bryce, and thank you for joining me.
Hi, thank you so much.
And thank you for sending the clips, because I was fascinated by how you stage with so few characters and the hip-hop kind of infusion and this jazz and all the stuff. And all I got was like this one really nice production video. And you were able to show me a couple other clips. So I have a better understanding of what you all did. And so I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah.
And I usually ask the first question, but when we were messaging, you answered this, which is you had no experience with cats before being cast in this.
Not any whatsoever, which is
Okay.
insane, given like my dance background and everything. But no, not at all.
So complete zero.
Yes, complete zero.
Had you seen it, or was it just like no 1998 movie? Nothing. Just
No, nothing.
You knew about it.
I knew about it.
Yeah.
So I lived in St. Louis. It's where I'm from originally, St. Louis, Missouri. I grew up doing shows at the Muni in Forest Park. And that was from like 6th grade till my senior year of high school. And they did not do cats out of those. I was there 2011 to 2017.
I'm not sure I can imagine cats there, outdoors in that theater.
They did it the year before my first ever season there when I was a child. They did it in 2010 because I asked myself the same thing. I'm like, how did I have no experience or prior exposure to cats? And then I'm like, did the Muni ever do it? Because they didn't do it when I was there. So it sparked my interest even more and did some Googling. And it was actually Stephanie J. Block, right after she did 9 to 5 on Broadway. Yeah. She came and played Grisabella there.
You know what? I did know that because if you look at, there's a random set of Grisabellas that did regional productions or like they have some connections, and she's one that I've always wanted to have on.
Yeah.
I forgot it was because she did 2 weeks at the Muni, or it was like a very short run.
14 days.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay. So no knowledge, no nothing.
Not at all.
You are now like, you're in your career at this point. Like it's not like it's your first job, and you've done some stuff at MTH. What was your kind of thought when you heard about this production? Because this is not the first time. Like they did this in 2018,
right?
But what was your reaction?
I knew that it was going to be, and I think when I listened to the episode with Tim, their mission statement is we want to present these classic, I guess, quote unquote, classic works, and envision it in a more contemporary manner. And so they did that with Chorus Line. When I did Chorus Line there in 2023, we did some like new choreography to the show, and it was in a very intimate space. But when I saw that they were doing Cats, not having known they did it in 2018, I was like, well, what kind of different things are they going to do with this? Like I knew something was coming.
Yeah.
Just given alone the space and given what they tend to do with their works.
Mm-hmm.
I was not prepared for what our concept was, but as soon as I got the offer, then I looked at their website where they had their season, and under the like, what's the show about? It explained Cats and then said this sold out every performance in 2018 with like hip hop and street jazz choreography and like a punk rock aesthetic. Like it kind of gave hints to that in the description.
Yeah.
And so that's when I was like, all right, I know nothing about Cats. I know that different Cats is happening everywhere. Conceptual Cats is happening all over the country. So let me go ahead and just give a stab at it.
Amazing. Yeah. I mean, when I talked to Tim, it was interesting because like now it is like the Joe Cabal, Cast of Joe Cabal is going to Broadway, and there was like a lot of different versions, and there's people have taken more liberties with it, and I think Andrew Lloyd Webber is more open to it. But in 2018, that wasn't the case. Like that, like he claims that they're the first, which I've not heard anybody that can claim that they did that before them.
Right.
And so yeah, I mean, it is like it was a very probably risky choice at the time, and like a provocative choice at the time. But now it's well known, and you obviously get to be cast in it, and you're cast as Munkustrap with only 12 cats total, right? There's only 12 of you, which is wild to me because it's usually like 30.
Right.
But you said that like when we were chatting before, you used the podcast. Like, did you find this during the rehearsal process? Like, how did that come to life?
I did. So actually what happened was our third day of rehearsal or something like that, I came down with strep for like a total of 2 days. I get strep all of the time, and I know exactly when it's coming. I know how to combat it as soon as it happens. And unfortunately, I still like had to stay home for like 2 whole days. But during that time when I was just completely bedridden, I went on Spotify and listened. Well, I was listening to the OBC top to bottom all the time. I just remember being like, how am I going to learn all of this in 2.5 weeks? So I was listening to it, and then I've seen different, I guess, like the what year is it? The 1998
movie. Yeah.
I saw like that soundtrack, and then literally underneath it was like, oh, the Wrong Cat Died podcast. And I was like, whoa, hold on a second. What is this? And yeah, I just thumbed through some episodes of that, because the thing about our production was, and Tim said that the cast struggled with this in 2018 as well, is this concept and like, what is this show actually about? And like the idea of just throwing that away. But I'm like, how can I form an opinion or a story on this when we're throwing the source material out? So I wanted an idea of the source material so that I could, I guess, flip that upside down or like do whatever I had to do to still like, you know, keep the relationship between like the characters, but you know, I didn't want to just completely throw out the story.
Yeah.
Or I guess I know it's divisive on like what the story is, but I just wanted people's perspectives on it. And then I listened to some episodes and just went down a hole. I was like, I didn't know there was this much history. I didn't know there was this many opinions. I didn't know all of these productions have happened over the course of however many decades. And so, yeah, I just kind of went into like I just kind of fell down the hole for a little bit. And I love podcasts. So like listening to them is just like, something I can do like in my past. I was bedridden this time around, but it's always such a great pastime for me. But yeah, that's how I found it. It just showed up on Spotify.
I love it. If you like this, you might like this.
Yeah.
And then you stumble upon 200 probably episodes or so by August of like,
yes.
And you had the exact same reaction I did, which is, wow, there's a lot here to go down this rabbit hole. And that's how I'm still here doing this.
Yeah.
So can you take me into the rehearsal room when you get back with Strep? Because you are still telling the story, even though in a slightly different way. So how much of that story did Tim give to you versus how much did you pull from hearing people on the podcast and your own kind of research?
That's so hard because is such an interesting process because, let's see, I feel like story-wise, we leaned into the Grisabella of it all, and having like her being rejected from us, and like another thing too with like Munkustrap was like he's the facilitator of what's ever happening, whether or not we are going down the traditional route of what the preconceived story is of cats, but also like I took that away, being like, okay, Munkustrap is being passed this ceremonial ritual, and that I know to be true from the source material. So I leaned into that a lot. I leaned into like, this has to go right. Like everything that happens throughout this show and this story has to go correct because it's going to be in his favor, and he's going to be the one to now facilitate this after Old Deuteronomy.
Yeah, I like it's interesting because the facilitation of like, this is the ball and he's making sure everything goes and is in order. He also kind of narrates as like the narrator of the show.
Right.
And then it's the lore of Munkustrap to me is the want to be the next in line.
Right.
And like to take over whenever old Deuteronomy's gone.
Right. Well, and that's interesting too, because and how I really played into it was old Deuteronomy wasn't on stage a lot in our production. I don't know if that's how it's traditionally done.
Really not actually a lot either, because he comes in kind of later for his song, and then then he sits on stage during intermission, which is always wild.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in a lot of productions, he sits on stage through the whole intermission.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Knowing our old Deuteronomy, I wish he would have done that.
Yeah.
He's like a music theater heritage staple and just one of literally the greatest people I've ever met. He like runs a band in Kansas City as well. So I would have loved for him to do like his own little like old Deuteronomy set at intermission or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. That would have been fun. But yeah, I just really played into when he was on, when he was off, being like, okay, he's not here. So this is my, I'm taking over in this moment. It's my turn. And yeah, I really leaned into that in my preparation for it. And then just really analyzing the relationship specifically between him and Grisabella, because I feel like in our production specifically, anytime she entered, I had this like protective energy of the pack, where I'm like, do not get too close to us. We don't know you, or we do know. In our production, it was kind of like we see this older figure compared to a bunch of kids. We played into like a very childlike energy of it, where it's like this person that we've shunned is now trying to like come in and change our vibe, change up what we're trying to do. This, I think Tim's concept was like, you guys come together every single night, once a week, let's say you guys come together once a week and you share stories with each other. It's very ritualistic. And tonight it happens to be T.S. Eliot's book. So like, that's the story you're telling tonight. Next week it might be you're having a book club with Great Gatsby, or last week you guys just read like Fahrenheit 451, something like that. But it's like a group of misfits gathering behind the bleachers after school, and we're all weird and no one wants to hang out with us. So we get together and we tell stories together.
That is fascinating. That is not how I was expecting it or how I heard it from Tim either. But I love that because it's a very
he told us
story.
that in the middle of a spacing rehearsal once, and I'm like, okay, I feel like I can get with this, because now when we have someone like Grisabella coming in, it's almost like imagine you're a kid and you're getting caught by your parents, you're getting caught by a teacher at school if you're behind the bleachers. Yeah. And it's someone that's coming in and wants to know maybe like what's happening here and is maybe interested, but it's more about just like the presence of it. And like, we're not used to this. This is something like we don't associate with. So you need to get out.
Yeah.
And so I felt like I played into that a lot.
I read that book.
I read that book. Yeah.
So that's so interesting. Okay. I that brings a whole different dynamic to the story, because if you're only doing these poems this week, then it's like you could have a million different versions of cats. Correct.
And it's like world. It's like, what would this ritual look like if it was a different book, or if it was a completely different experience we were unpacking that night? So I think like that's what made it so hard to grasp, is because and Tim got into like the Brechtian-ness of it all, which like I don't have a ton of experience with, but learning about it in school, like the Brechtian technique and like the idea of epic theater and letting the audience in on it and everything. So there was like that whole added element to it as well. But I think he may have wanted to keep it super conceptual and abstract and open for interpretation, because we, as the actors, are aware of what we're doing, or even the characters, like we are aware of what this night is for us. Mm-hmm. And there were elements in the show too, where we were breaking the fourth wall. I mean, from the very top after the opening number, what is the line? Do I actually see with my own very eyes a man who's not heard of a jellicle cat? I had this cross downstage all the way to the first row of the audience. and I just like look in someone's eyes and I'm like, well, what is what's the line? I already forgot it.
Do you know what is it? Do you know what a jellicle cat? Because they've done some of that where it's like they point in what's a jellicle cat like. Yeah,
that's what I did. I walked downstairs. I was like, what's a jellicle cat? And just kind of staring at a random person in the first row every single night. And then I think leading into the naming of cats was a monologue for Gus. Well, he's technically not Gus at that time, but he eventually plays Gus. He does the entire naming of cats by himself.
Wow.
And he gets up on this ladder. I guess one of those ladders you would find at like Home Depot or something.
Yeah, the ones that are on the rollers.
Yeah. And he gets up there. We have a giant book. It's quite literally the actual T.S. Eliot book, just made out of wood. And he's a short man, so it looked like it was bigger than him. And he opens it up. It has like LED lights on his face, and he just reads it as a monologue through some underscoring.
Wow.
And it's very like presentational. We're presenting this book. We're showing the audience that we're not just telling you, we're not just like acting this story and dancing this story out for you. We're actually going to tell you right now that we are quite literally, you're just reading a book together.
That is so interesting. I'm also going to now think like all afternoon and evening of what other books would make a different cats. Like,
correct.
What other things could you be reading today, and what would that look like?
Right.
Which is fun. So when this comes out, I'm going to have a bunch of people comment those, because that would be fascinating to hear.
I would like to hear that too.
So knowing how different and conceptual this is, but also still the same, besides the podcast, like, did you watch the 1998 movie? Like, how much of the traditional cats did you try to consume, if any?
I learned the iconic jellicle ball combination. I know no one can see me, but I did that combination in college, and that had to have been like my senior year when I was taking theater dance. I'm so surprised too, because I grew up at a dance studio. It was a very we went to competitions and conventions and everything, but it was a very musical theater based dance studio. That's, you know, my teacher, shout out to Mark Krupinski, he's like the greatest man of all time. He knew Fosse, personally. So it was a very Fosse based dances. We had Fosse, we had Jerome Robbins, we had Randy Skinner, we had trying to think of like Jerome Robbins, learning different choreography from their works, but never cats. We never ever whipped out that combination from Jellicle Ball that everyone knows, the audition combination. We never ever did that. So yeah, I just had no prior knowledge of it until I guess I got to college, and then I learned that combination for the first time, and then watched a clip of it. But I've never seen a fully staged production of it done with the cat costumes, or I never saw the tour or anything like that.
There's a lot of regional houses doing it still, so you can find that, like the cats, costume cats. And then in March, the Jellicle Ball will be back on Broadway.
I wish I would have seen Roller Coaster Cats. That was the only one, because I'm obsessed with roller coasters.
Oh, roller coaster, that was fun. That was a very fun time. I did a lot with them. I got to ride the roller coaster. It was a blast.
I'm jealous.
They did a great job. It was super fun. And they stuck pretty true to, I mean, there were minor tweaks, but it was still very true to cats. Which is cool to kind of like, instead of having a junkyard, make it an amusement park and still have really a lot of the similarities.
Right.
I want to hear a little bit about having only 12 cast members, because there's such a big chunk of the lore of cats is this like family tree that does not exist. And there are some things that are true, and there are some things that are like very open to interpretation. Yeah. But with only 12, how much did you all think about that? And did you spend time, or is it just like, yeah, we're just a group reading the book, who cares? Or is it like, they're dating, they're together, they're not together, that's my dad, because that's kind of the thing that gets played a lot. Like, that's a very different style.
Right. I feel like we didn't lean into any of that whatsoever. And I think it's interesting because I feel like when I was reading or listening through the score and just reading the libretto, I would say script, but it's all sung through. I feel like there was nothing really there for me to latch onto with like personal relationships, I feel like.
Yeah. The score, no.
Yeah, I don't know. I hope I don't get canceled for saying that, but like I just feel like there's really nothing there. You have to just make it up. So like it's such open for interpretation, and at least like Munkustrap and Jelly were best friends. We were best friends. I know that for a fact. And maybe it's because I loved the actor so much. I loved her to death outside of the show. But she was the one I tended to have a lot of interactions with. And she was the one that I feel like Munkustrap tended to gravitate towards when we had some moments of, what this is up to you as the actor. What are you feeling in this moment and stuff like that in the staging and everything. But I do have a screenshot because I wanted to actually list who was in our show. Because there's only 12 of us, but we had Gus, we had Munkustrap, Grisabella, Bomblo Arena, Rumple Teaser, Demeter, Rum Tum, Old Deuteronomy, Mungo Jerry, Jenny Any Dots, Mr. Mistopheles, Skimble Shanks, and Jelly Lorem.
Okay.
That was who was in our show.
So there wasn't like you played multiple characters, like.
Let's see. Gus was not
usually
Gus
Bustopher Jones
until...
is Bustopher Jones and Gus. There's usually a McCavity is usually played by somebody else too in the beginning.
McCavity was not in our show, not even in the slightest. No McCavity
at all. Okay.
They just sing about him, and then it's kind of over. The McCavity fight. Okay, I'll get into the McCavity fight for a second, because we had that like musical interlude going into like what you hear during the ball, and then the fight music happens. And for us, it was like police were showing up. And like we're adolescents and we're getting caught. We're scared of getting caught again. And we had in the lighting just a bunch of police sirens, and we're all just running across the stage, hiding from one another. And it was kind of like a jump scare moment for us. Is kind of what that was. Versus I don't know what the McCavity fight is.
It's bringing back Old Deuteronomy because he's kidnapped by McCavity.
Right, which we did bring back Old Deuteronomy. It was kind of like scampered around the stage. We're scared. There's police sirens. There's lights. And then we come out, we sing, we have to fight Old Deuteronomy. And then we have Mr. Mistopheles. We have Rum Tum come out and start Mr. Mistopheles. And then we still see Old Deuteronomy at the very end. He actually came out at the very top of the theater in like a special, and like confetti was like thrown on him and everything.
Okay.
Because I want to say Mistopheles was like a rock number for us. We leaned into like a lot of the rock elements of the show, and that was kind of like a celebration for us once like that musical interlude happens, and then he shows up on the drum roll, and then he pops out, and then we kind of just have this like I guess almost reminiscent of like a mosh pit kind of moment where we're just like rocking out with each other. We're like, everything's okay again. I know like we just fought for our lives and ran away from the police, but like now we're back, baby. That's kind of like the vibe that it was.
I love it. It sounds like the Breakfast Club.
Yeah. You know what? Yes.
It's like Breakfast Club Cats.
Yes. Yeah, it is. that is a really great image for me. Yeah,
because there's not the relation. There's relationships, but there's not the like full relationships. It's kind of like you all came together for one reason or another. You're hiding from the teacher a little bit. You've got your rebels and you've got your bookworms. You've got like everything in between. All the characters there.
Right.
So this is a visual I can get behind.
Yeah.
We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back for more of The Wrong Cat Died. It's fun, and it's so interesting about I'm fascinated with the lyrics, like that you didn't play the relationships because you didn't hear them. And I was thinking through as you were talking about like which ones actually maybe are even there, and the only one that I can think of off the top of my head, besides obviously the ones like Mungo Jerry and Rumple Teaser where they sing together,
right,
is that a lot of the rumors of Tugger and Mistopheles come from the fact that that Tugger sings the beginning of the Mistopheles song in the cast. So that's like he's singing about his best friend, boyfriend, whatever you want to call them, partner, whatever version you want, is purely just because of that line. Like he's the one that's like, you shouldn't forget about him.
Yeah.
But the rest is all about staging. So all the other relationships is either lore that's been passed down from, the original group or just over the years, or the lifts, like the Victoria number where there's the lift, is part of that is her, like that's the relationship is whoever's lifting her, you assume is they're together.
Interesting.
Or truly staging, where it's like those two are side by side. They're probably brother, sister together, or they look kind of the same, so they're related. It's not because of the lyrics. It's not because of the text at all.
That is so interesting. And I know, I can think of one thing. Traditionally, does Munkustrap not like Rum Tum Tugger? Is that what I've heard? I've heard that.
It seems like it depends on the interpretation, but a lot of variations is that the two of them are brothers and sons of Old Deuteronomy, and it's kind of like I'm the one that's trying to keep this thing in order, and here's my brother that's causing chaos and not listening to anybody. So it's kind of like that he doesn't like not that he doesn't like him, but that's the like. He's kind of ruining what I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to keep this family in order. I'm
glad that you said that because I feel like I leaned into that. And that was something I think I also drew from, was specifically given like just the placement of where that song is too, is like, okay, in our version, Rum Tum came out with a handheld, and it was again like a very rock concert element of it all. And I knew, at least like as Munkustrap, being like, this is a little chaotic. I don't like this. He's making all these girls pass out from his singing, and we need to kind of like get the show on the road a little bit more. So I remember leaning into that a little bit too. But it's also crazy because I did the Rum Tum Tugger dance break. We had like a dance break in there, and I joined in on it. So I had to find that little journey of like, okay, I'm annoyed, but all right, here we go. Let's do it. And it's so interesting that you mentioned that too. I mean, just given the relationships like off stage as well, like loved our Tugger. We hung out all the time. So it was interesting getting to like play with that on stage as well. That's just one thing Tim always said. He was like, you guys are probably not going to understand what's going on until we get to a certain point of our process, but just lean into it and just like create relationships with each other on stage. And we had like scaffolding that we got to climb all over, and it was just a giant, our junkyard was just like, we had stop signs and like cones and like spray paint and everything. So it was fun to like, we made it our playground, and we had opportunities to just kind of like connect with each other and form those relationships.
And you had some room to work too, with only having 12 versus usually it's like there's 30 on stage. But I do kind of like, I think one of the beauty of parts of Cats, like one of the parts that's most unique, is that it's now, it's came out in the 80s. So it's like there's a lot of years of history, and now it's been done so many times regionally. And then you add in there's the fan fiction, there's the fan art, there's now this podcast, and there's a lot of people that are talking about it. There's so much more information and lore that you can build from, but you also don't have to, because there's only a few things that like even the purists feels like they're true. Like, hey, this is for sure one thing we should all agree on. And even that, I will say there's been a few fan accounts that have tagged me and stuff, and I've seen where they're like, hey, this is one thing I think we all agree on. I'm like, I actually don't know if I agree with that one. So it's like, not everyone agrees, but it doesn't materially change the story.
Right.
And I think that's what's cool. I think one of my favorite things early on in this podcast was I read on like the Cats Wikipedia page, like the fan page, a rumor, like a headcanon, where it was like, hey, we're unsure about this because of this one production that seemed to have done it differently this way. And then I got to interview both the people over the years of like, what happened there? And it's just like, yeah, we were friends. Like, we played it, like it happened one day on stage kind of by accident. And then someone sent something to us about it. We talked about it, and then they just leaned into it from that part forward. And that to me is fascinating, that like all of this lore could have just been because of one moment from two friends that just happened on stage one night that all of a sudden snowballed. And there's like a few shows that can do that, but Cats is definitely one, and not every show gives you that freedom.
Right.
And that's what I think is really cool about it.
I think it's such an interesting comparison. I don't know why this came up, but I've done Chorus Line like 3 times, but so it's interesting because those are real people that had real relationships with these people on the line, and people play into that in productions all the time. Even though there's also inherently no context in the actual show and the script itself that these people have these certain relationships with each other. It's always played into, especially if you have someone from the legacy that's like staging your show. They're like, well, this character and this character, they had, this was their lore outside of what this show was when they were being interviewed for the first time. And these people knew each other. But it's so interesting on the other side of that with something like Cats, because it's not informed by the show. It's informed by what their relationships are like on stage and as actors versus like it's not in the script. So I don't know. It's so interesting to think about, because when I was being told, or even when I was listening to this podcast, a few episodes of it, I'm like, so is this, it made me nervous a little bit. I was like, wait, so is this all the lore I need to know about? Am I going to be confused as the character if I don't play into like every single aspect of this? And then when I think it was like the second or third episode I listened to, I'm like, wait, this is actually this is subjective. This is all
completely
opinion. This is depending on each production and each cast that's ever done it.
I have heard now a few different like story of Cats interpretations where, because like a lot of the regional theaters, they'll give that, like they will go around and during the rehearsal process and say, this is the story of Cats and this is the way we're going to play those things. And then these are things we're going to let you decide. And there's a lot of that's open. And even hearing that, I've heard variations. Now they're not huge, but they're tweaks of like, we're going to maybe play this version for Grisabella or this relationship in that story. And I'm fascinated by that, of where I constantly, so I'm from Indiana and they're going to do it next year at a dinner theater, like down the street from where I grew up. And I want to be like, let me come to rehearsals. Like when you I forget the dance rehearsals, forget the tech, but when you get to the story part, let me go. And then I have an AI platform that I built based on the transcripts of these episodes. So I'm like, I can ask it anything I want, of everything that I've ever fed it or I've heard on this show.
Wow.
And we can get answers.
Wow.
So it's really kind of crazy to me that that's only going to go. I actually don't know how they're going to run, but I can't imagine it's going to be more than 4 to 6 weeks at longest, if it's even that.
Yeah.
And they're going to go in and do a pretty much full version of Cats. And I'm like, well, let me tell the story.
Yeah.
Who's telling the story? like, let me kind of go in and add some of those flavors to it. That's again, not material. Like the main stuff's going to be the same.
Right. Which I feel like as an actor, I like being told those things and I like being able to play into it, which is why I feel like it was a struggle a little bit trying to get my hands on this show, or like our version of the show, or really try to figure out what it is. And I think Tim too, he was like, it's not that deep, to be honest, like find the things that work for you. But I don't know, sometimes as an actor, I wish I had those things, or I was given those things to play off of. So it was a real challenge to not be given that and to figure it out for myself, and for us to figure it out as a cast. It was such an interesting challenge that I've never faced with a show before.
Yeah. I also think though, there's got to be some level of fun of the, like, you can do it today and then you can do it tomorrow. And it not be, again, totally different, but be different because you had this different, like, slight tweak that you wanted to do. And the audience isn't going to know the difference. Whereas in certain shows, you can't do that. Like, that line has to be delivered exactly in that moment with that dance number at that time. There can't be another look to the character, whereas you kind of can do some of those things.
Right. I feel everything was so point of view for us. And again, Tim asking, what's your point of view on this? Form a point of view on this moment. I'm trying to think of, well, one thing that was always so hard for me was peaks and pollicles. It was, I did peaks and pollicles by myself. So the trade-off of our Gus, who I guess technically wasn't Gus at the time during Naming of Cats, but he had to do all of Naming of Cats, and I had to do all of Peaks and Pollicles. And Peaks and Pollicles was in Act 1, and it was right after Old Deuteronomy. So me having to form this point of view on, for us, with that number being just complete nonsense, we really played into like the childlike, we are behind the school just screwing around element of that. But
how did you lead into that? Like, what was the lead in for it? Because so for me, Peaks and Pollicles has only been, at least that I've watched, in Act 2 as basically part of Gus's like story. So it's like Gus used to be this famous actor, and now he's reliving it in some fashion with Peaks and Pollicles.
Right. I've heard that, and that's so interesting. It's so interesting because it's just like not at all what we did.
Yeah.
I feel like Peaks and Pollicles was another, I guess, great example of our version of us just like acting things out. Like we quite literally were, without any context, taking the lyrics of that song and being like, okay, so we have Peaks and we have Pollicles, we have team 1 and team 2. Like our staging was like, we have the Peaks versus the Pollicles. We're quite literally in the staging, like getting down on our knees and like barking at each other like dogs.
Yeah, that
and,
was
like,
one of the clips you sent me. It was fun to watch that one. Yeah.
We had like our Mungo and Rumple like going head to head. Like they would have this moment during like the barks where they would just like come towards each other and like square up and like try to fight each other. And it was just supposed to be complete silly nonsense. It was kind of hard for me to like figure out like, okay, this isn't supposed to be serious, but like the music sounds serious and what I'm singing sounds very dramatic and very heightened. So we just leaned into that. Like I'm quite literally, we had like a little ramp, like a skateboarding ramp. I would just like hop on this ramp and start singing about it and be super dramatic while we had the juxtaposition of the rest of the cast over here just acting like complete fools and crawling around on the ground, and old Deuteronomy's just like watching it all unfold and like he's like I don't know what's happening, I can't do anything about this. So that was a challenge.
Yeah, that is such an interesting part of the show. I am curious though, like when you got cast for this and you're like, it is cats, were you pumped that you weren't going to be in the cat's costume and being a cat, or like what was like, do you want to do cats in the sense of being a cats?
I do. I definitely want to do cats. I want to do it with the costumes and I want to do it with the original staging. As a dancer, I feel like that's now that I know about it and I'm super into it now, I actually really like cats. Yeah. Like, I think it's actually really cool. I could not get the music out of my head every single day, and even now, like it's been since July, and I'll still wake up and sing. Like Busterford Jones is always an earworm for me.
Interesting.
It is
not
it
the
really
one that most people say.
I don't know why, and again, our version of it was so freaking silly. But anyway, going back to what you were asking, would love to be in Cats proper, would love to do the original choreography and staging, and like with that I think that set is so cool. I've seen bootlegs of it now with like, I think like the tour set or something. Like, this is really cool. This is awesome. Would love to put on the Cats costumes. I feel like it might be like a rite of passage. I feel like for dancers, I've always heard that. That is one thing that I kind of did here growing up was, this is one of those dancer shows. So,
yeah,
it's kind of a bucket list for a lot of musical theater dancers specifically. So it would be really cool to do it. But on the complete other side of that, I was excited for it because I love like punk rock and I love the elements of that. I've done American Idiot, for example, and that had to be one of my favorite experiences in my professional career was doing that show. So being able to lean into like the super grungy, dark side, rocker vibe of it all, that really excited me. And the band at Music Theater Heritage is killer. It's really killer. And they just really kind of elevated like the drums of it all. And they sat behind the set, so we heard everything, and they play the crap out of all of their scores. It's really impressive. So I was excited in that element. I'm like, I know this is going to sound really good, knowing that they already did a production of it. The choreographer that did Chorus Line did their 2018 production of Cats. He's actually like a hip hop, like hard hitting hip hop dancer. He's really good at that stuff. So I'm like, they did this before, it worked. It sold out every performance. Although it was, our production was a different choreographer. They hired the same costume designer. They had a different scenic designer. But I had heard the ways that they were trying to blow it up in their bigger space versus their smaller thrust space in 2018. So I'm like, okay, it seems like they have a concept and they have something they really want to do with this. And knowing what kinds of works they do with their shows, I was excited to just kind of, lean into that and go along for the ride.
Yeah. What a process.
Yeah.
Before we go to transition to rapid fire, is there anything else from this production that you're like, this needs to be out there? Like, this, people need to know about this?
Trying to think. I will say, and I wish I had clips from Act 2 because I only ever got clips from Act 1. Act 2, I really enjoyed Skimbleshanks. Our show was eye candy. It's like, I remember the assistant director, she posted something. She also did like a lot of our props and did a lot of like set dressing and things like that. Her aesthetic is awesome. Shout out Emily Shackelford. She's the associate artistic director. I could be wrong. But she's like Tim's right hand gal.
Okay.
She is so good at what she does, and she also directs there, but she actually directed the number Skimbleshanks, and she wanted to have a little piece in it, and they spray painted the crap out of stop signs, and like we had like a bicycle wheel like to form the train. We had like a garbage bin on a stick. We had like spray fog. We had silly string. We had like all of this stuff, and like the signs and like the wheels were wrapped around in like LED lights, and it just looked so cool. It was so cool. I think there might be a photo of it on the production photos that I sent you, but the forming that train was actually really cool. And we had like the metal ladder on wheels, like he was standing on top of there, and we had I think it was our Jenny Anydots. She was on like center with like a light that represented the train, and they just cut all the lights. It was almost like a full blackout on stage and in the whole entire theater, and just lit up the crap out of these I'm trying to explain it, signs and wheels like on sticks to form the train, and we could like spin them and everything. And it was just really cool. And like the graffiti of like the top of the show, they come out are Rum Tum is like banging on a bucket and like just making a beat. He's like beating the crap out of this bucket, and like we have some of the girls coming on stage, like swarming the stage with silly string. They take off these like wooden signs and they quite literally spray paint Act 1 on it, and then at the top of Act 2 they come out and they just spray paint a giant 2 over the 1, and just like little things like that. I just thought it was so presentational. And someone actually came up to me after the show one night and said, I have no exposure to cats. I don't know what any of this is. I've never seen the show, but like, I feel like I have an understanding of what kind of piece this is, even though I'm aware I'm not seeing how it's done traditionally. He's like, I feel like this is probably a good first exposure to it because it was so presentational and we were showing the audience every single thing.
Yeah. I talked with Tim about that because that's the biggest, what I heard most from the Jellicle Ball was that, because I think when you remove the cat's costumes and you present it in a slightly different way, you probably tell a little bit more of a linear story.
Yeah.
And by doing that, you eliminate some of the confusion that's really hard when there's so much going on stage with so many cats. So I'm still praying that somebody eventually has some full production video of yours that we can watch.
Me too. I'll find it.
Yeah, one day we'll get a copy. But we're gonna take a quick break, and then we'll be back for more of The Wrong Cat Died. Okay, let's go to some rapid fire. So if you could go on for any character for Cats one night, whether it's in your production or in a Cats production, who do you want to perform as?
I would probably want to do, I think Skimble came to my mind right away.
Okay.
I think I would want to do Skimbleshanks. And again, going back to like the actor in our production who played Skimble, he's one of my good friends. Like, he's just so awesome and so silly. Like, I can only imagine him doing that. But if I could take the isms of how he portrayed that, I would love to go on for him. It was just such a blast.
Awesome. Who are your favorite and least favorite characters from like a hanging out perspective? Like, which one would you want to spend time with, and which one would you get annoyed by?
Let's see. I don't know why I feel like Jenny Anydots would annoy me.
Okay.
I don't know why.
You don't want to crochet. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, I feel like she's just kind of there. And that sounds terrible, but kind of just like a homebody staying inside. I'm like, I don't know if that's my vibe. I'm very social. I like to do things. Trying to think of anyone else that I probably.
Who would you hang out with most? Like, who would be your best friend from that, from a personality standpoint, not your cast members, but
Yeah.
character wise?
And it's so crazy because I can't choose from, because I have no exposure to any of the other ones besides the 12 that we had. My mind goes to Gus. Like, I would love to hang out with Gus, just like being able to be in time and space with someone that is, I guess, elderly, and someone that I could look up to in that manner, just to like kind of lounge around and chill with. And again, going back to our show, the guy that played our Gus, him and I would go to the bar right after rehearsals and performances, just us two, and we would just shoot the shit every single night. He was in the original company of Follies.
Wow.
And just like us being able to just chat about things and like hearing his perspective on the business from that time was just so interesting. But also, I think I would want to hang out with Mungo Jerry. I think me and Mungo Jerry would actually be a kiki.
I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Favorite song in the show?
Favorite song? That is so difficult because they're all, and I want to make sure I pick a favorite based on my actual favorite, not versus it's stuck in my head.
Yeah.
Gosh, I love Skimbleshanks. I love that song. That is such a fun song. But also,
that's one of my favorites too.
Yeah,
that and McCavity are two of my favorites.
Oh, and McCavity. How could I forget? And that was the one song I was not on stage for. I did not leave the stage. Yeah, that was my one break.
So you get to appreciate it more probably by not having to be dancing in the middle of it.
Right. And I didn't get to watch it, just given how the space is, and we didn't have like TVs in the back or anything. So I didn't get to watch it every night. And McCavity in our production was like a full on burlesque numbers. They were popping and locking on the stage, and they were snaking to the ground and throwing booty. So I wish I could have seen it, but that was the one I would run upstairs, throw a cough drop in, and just jam out to it every single night with our Mungo Jerry.
You need to find those Act 2 videos so you can see it at some point.
I know. I'm about to text our stage manager when we get off the
phone. Okay, my fun one. I'm not going to make you cast it because that's normally what we do, but you told me you're going to be in a touring production of The Music Man. So
yes,
if you could place one of the cats from your show into The Music Man, who would you want to be in that story and why?
Oh gosh, I would really love to see Gus like doing 76 trombones.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, just like the image of that makes me smile a lot. And see, here's the other thing is that I'm currently figuring out Music Man and like reading the script and the score. We just got it sent to us. So because I've never seen that show either. So I'm trying to put that into like what I would think in terms of cats. Also maybe like Rum Tum I'd like to see in Music Man.
I could see that.
You know, I don't know. I feel like he would kind of like cause a lot of chaos in River City.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I'd like to see how that shakes out.
There's a couple I think you could put in with the whole kind of con man thing, because like you didn't have the cavity for that, but cavity breaks every human law. Mungo Jerry and Rumpel Teaser are a little mischievous. Like you could have some stuff there. Then you could put the kittens in with like the school children that are, part of the band. It's like there's a lot of places you can put people.
I feel like I'm trying to think of like who I would want to see as like the barbershop quartet.
Yeah,
in Cats wise. Yeah, that's so funny. Like I would probably do like Mungo and let's see again, just going off of like who is in ours. I'd probably do like I'd love to see like Mungo in a barbershop quartet. I'd love to see maybe
you need old dude. You need that deep voice.
We need old dude as the bass. Trying to think of who else too. I don't know. I see, honestly, I kind of see Skimble being like a skrelting tenor.
Mm-hmm. So
yeah, that could be fun. But I just having that image in my head of like 4 characters from Cats in a barbershop quartet.
I like it. Okay, most important question. So my whole show centers around, I don't think Grisbel's the right choice. So I want to hear you, Bryce, who's your Jellicle choice and why?
My Jellicle choice is Gus.
Gus.
Hands down.
Great. No more questions.
No more questions. Yeah, no questions asked. I think I just think that he provides, it's so hard to compete with memory and stuff like that. And the way our show was set up was Grisabella comes out at the end of Act 1 and she sings like a snippet of memory and it's all like a cappella. And then she goes to the piano. We had a piano on stage with like the lid torn off, and she plays memory and sings it. She accompanies herself, and there's this like projection of her face on the moon. So that's kind of how our first act ended, and then the same kind of visual happens in Act 2 before memory. And then she comes out and sings the crap out of that. So it is hard to compete with like the way our production was set up that I would choose someone else. But I just think Gus gives such an emotional gut punch with his song. And at least like me as Munkustrap, in our production was so hard for me to be like, come on, like is this not the one? Like, please. So yeah, even like stepping out of that, I feel like that's my choice. Would be
Grisabella, like you kind of referred to her as like the older teacher that's coming to like ruin your book club.
Teacher or guardian parent of some sort.
So what's the like acceptance in like, because the whole point is you have to like embrace her at the end of memory. So what does that feel like? What does that feel like in that point? What was the story there? Memory
for us was, let me back up a little bit too, because Monk has that line that's like, kind of says, okay, now we're kind of shifting to we're doing the thing
to make
now.
The choice.
Yeah. Now we're gonna make the choice, and then I'm facing the audience and kind of presenting what I'm saying to the audience, saying, okay, now we're gonna do this, and then she enters on that music change on the dun dun dun. She comes out again. Everyone's startled by her and everything, and she plants herself center and she starts to sing, and we're still shutting her. Like no one's looking at her. She's the only one in light, and all of us are quite literally just like, whether we're looking down, looking at each other, we're just not looking at her the entire time until kind of like the bridge. She kind of has this moment with Rumpelteazer. Rumpelteazer has that line of who traditionally sings
usually
that?
Syllabub or Jemima, or
in ours character. It was Rumpel. Yeah.
Okay.
And
so character you definitely didn't have.
Yes, a character we definitely didn't have. And in ours it was Rumble. She comes and starts to sing that line, and she's kind of reaching her hand out, and Grisabella's reaching her hand out, and people are like, I think it's our Jelly Lorm goes up to her and is like, don't touch her, get away from her. And then that brings her to the climax where the touch me, and she's like rushing the group a little bit, and we kind of all have this collective moment, which I think was really cool, because this wasn't really directed, like it wasn't super specific, and I think Tim did that intentionally because he wanted us to find that moment in the song where we're shunning her, she's singing, now we have that, like we have to face it, and I think it just had that moment of like, okay, I think she's getting what she wants. So she's finally asking us, like, please, just this one time, like, let me in. And we kind of all turn to her and we're like, okay, we kind of get it now. We get you want to be here. That's okay. We understand. And then I think there was a light shift and like a music change where old dude stands up and kind of goes to every single one of us, addresses every single one of us, is like, is this okay? Can we finally let her in? Can we finally do it? And then you
send her out,
and then we send her out. Yeah, right away. I think,
read the book with us today, and then we're going to know more.
Yeah, no more, which is so interesting. Cause it's like, I feel like even then there's no context in the show of whether we have to send somebody up to the heaviside layer. It's a song, but it's not, we're not directly speaking like we are sending Grisabella up to the heaviside light. Like there's no lyrics for that.
Yeah.
So
I think that part's much clearer in the traditional format, because the whole thing is like in the beginning, it's once a year, they come to make the Jellicle choice. Who's it going to be? And then it's like, who will it be? And then it's like, then they're in the process of making the choice. Like, that's why they're doing this whole thing. That's why they have the ball. And then they, as they're about to make the choice, she comes back and they embrace her, and then she becomes the choice.
Right.
So that's kind of why. So like that story to me very hard for someone, if you're watching it the first time, to piece all that together.
Yeah.
But it is right in the first song of like, or not first song, it's in that beginning of like, this is what's happening, and then watch.
Right.
Whereas in your book club version, like, which I love, it is a little different of like, you're welcoming her in, but there's not that like, all right, we got to immediately make like, we're making a choice. I almost now interpret yours as we're doing T.S. Eliot for our book club today. And part of T.S. Eliot is a choice, is picking somebody as part of the ball.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's just how you kind of end up with your thing there. And yeah, Gus still should have probably been picked.
Yeah, I do think that Gus should have been picked. And yeah, I think Grisabella makes a strong case for herself.
Yeah, Memory's great.
Memory is great,
Memory's
but
great.
man, that song that Gus sings, it really did something for me every single night. I love it so much.
I love it. Well, this has been so fun. How can people stay in touch with you? We'll link the tour for Music Man. So if it comes to a city near you, go see it. But what's your social medias, and how can people stay in touch with you?
My Instagram is at bbayer7, BBAYER, the number 7, Bayer like the aspirin. And that's kind of really all. I'm not really active on anything else, to be honest. But
we'll link that, and then go see the Music Man if it's in your town.
Yes, please. We are launching it, I think, right after New Year's. Teching after New Year's, and then first stop we open in Fayetteville, Arkansas. So
okay,
yeah,
if you're in Fayetteville, I've been there, beautiful city.
Yeah,
if you're in Fayetteville, check it out. And yeah, thanks for coming on and sharing a ton more information. I'm still waiting. You're gonna have to text. You're gonna have to get a video. Like
I
a
will
full video at some point. So
I will get my hands on that one.
There's a lot of people that are interested in seeing this in some capacity. So
I also thank you to anyone that out there that, like, I guess looked up our production or plugged it to you. I don't know if you heard about it before someone else told you through word of mouth or anything, but
yeah, word of mouth. I mean,
that's awesome.
Because it was a non-traditional, version. And then there was a lot this summer. Like there were a lot of different productions this summer. So it was fun to kind of see all of them happening in succession in some ways.
Yeah.
And they're still going. Like I keep hearing about other ones. It's still on international tour. I think they're in like Greece right now.
Oh, wow.
There's one in Australia still going on. The one in New Jersey finished recently. I mean, it's been continuous, and there's another one that was just teased for outside of London next year, Joel Cabal in March. Cats is having its little revival and renaissance here, so I'm excited for more versions.
Me too. Hopefully I can sink my teeth into another production of it soon. I would love to do it again, specifically Munkustrap. It was such an awesome experience, so...
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, this was so fun. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
And thanks everyone else for listening to this episode of The Wrong Cat Died, the podcast breakdown the catastrophe. To follow along, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any else's podcasts. Follow us on social media at The Wrong Cat Died, or check our website, thewrongcatdied.com.